Good morning to you, and welcome back to today's JRPG Weekly Update. I'm Super Derek, and we've got some news to talk about today. Starting with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, this little game that might have got a few headlines recently, just got announced. This is a game that's by Koei Tecmo and Nintendo, and they are making a prequel to Breath of the Wild in the vein of Hyrule Warriors and the playstyle of Hyrule Warriors, but with a much closer visual aesthetic to that of Breath of the Wild, which is pretty amazing so far. It looks great. And so basically, this is going to be taking place about 100 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild. It features playable characters, the various champions that you met throughout your time in Hyrule or Breath of the Wild. This game, I got to be honest, at first when I saw this, I was like, oh man, another Hyrule Warriors game. But now after kind of sitting on that and letting it sink in, I feel like based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like the playstyle is really going to suit the universe really well, especially like since you're going to be switching between the various champions. I think that's going to be really awesome, and I can't really wait to take a look at it when it does come out. Now, that is something that's going to be launching on November 20th of this year, which is really great. That's just around the corner, just basically 2 months away from now, and that should be enough to get us to tide us over until Breath of the Wild 2, which I am still eagerly awaiting more information on. But it's kind of nice to get this little surprise in the middle of nowhere that this RPG, this action RPG. I don't know. Is it an action RPG? I think it's an action RPG. What do you guys think? Is Hyrule Warriors an action RPG? But I'm excited to see this, regardless of whether or not it's an action RPG. I think this could have the potential to be really interesting, and I wonder how much of this information is going to tie into Breath of the Wild 2, or how much of this is going to be like recalled, or if there's going to be maybe cameos or other special information that we will glean from this game. I'm very curious. Now, this is its own original game. It is not to be confused with some sort of DLC or anything like that. This is its own game that you will have to buy separate from the original Hyrule Warriors, so I'm probably going to pick it up, I think. It looks pretty interesting, and it looks like Nintendo is actually much more closely involved in the production of this one. I don't know for a fact much about this, except for what you've seen in the trailers, but I'm excited for it. And also, last week I did also mention that there was this countdown timer site, one of the writers behind the Summon Night series has collaborated with one of the publishers or one of the developers of Summon Night 5, and they are making a new game, but they didn't say what it was. Well, now that countdown timer has elapsed, and we know that game is called Maglam Lord. It is an action RPG coming to PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch in Japan this winter, and it looks like it's going to feature, it's an action RPG going to feature the protagonist, who is a demon lord who has apparently lost some of his powers, and he's going to be presumably going on a mission or a quest to get those powers back. That's what I would do if I was a demon lord who lost all his powers. So in a sense, that kind of reminds me of The Devil is a Part-Timer, which is an excellent anime. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check it out. Now, Maglam Lord, no word on a Western release yet, though I did actually ping Gaijin Works. I'm hoping that maybe Vic Ireland can get his hands on a copy of this game and bring it over to the West, since he's already been involved in bringing over the other Summon Night games, or some of the Summon Night games, 5 and 6. I don't know. Maybe knock on wood. We'll see what happens. But also we got another game announced called Chronos Before the Ashes. And this is a game by THQ Nordic, and the trailer is kind of useless, all in all. To be totally brutally honest, the trailer's a little... I mean, I like the Outrun aesthetic that they chose for this one, the aesthetic that they chose for this trailer, but they didn't really show any gameplay or much of it. But what they did show of the gameplay looked more like an action-adventure game, kind of. I hate to say like Breath of the Wild, because I feel like everything is kind of like Breath of the Wild these days, at least a little bit. But it's kind of like an action-adventure game where it's got some sort of ancient technology kind of deal going on. And it looks maybe kind of interesting, but also a little kind of bland. They didn't really show off enough of it. They showed off too much of a girl dancing around to some neon signs and not enough people playing the game. That's my hot take on it. But I mean, it could be good if we got to see a little bit more about this game. Now, the game is coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and Stadia on December 1st when it launches. So I guess we'll just have to keep our eyes open for more, maybe less girl dancing and more gameplay would be a good idea next time, THQ Nordic. The like to dislike ratio on that trailer is so bad. Anyways, also, I have some great news. A game is getting ported to modern consoles, and that game is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. The complete edition, which will apparently include all of the DLC available on the from the original games. And this is exciting for a couple of reasons. This game has been unavailable for a long while. And as someone who actually bought and downloaded the game early on, I loved it. It was a $15 game. It looks like it's going to launch again on modern consoles for $15 as well. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is that it is a beat 'em up, but it is also a beat 'em up with a lot of RPG mechanics. It plays a lot like a more modern version of Kunio-kun or River City Ransom. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. It was a game that I played 10 years ago. This is the 10th year anniversary of that. I loved the movie. I loved the game. It's got, the composer was Armanaguchi, and who is amazing, by the way. All the tracks in the game are amazing. Paul Robertson, a amazing pixel artist. You should check out some of his stuff. Maybe I'll link to some of his things if I can find them. I'll link to them up in the corner over here. Highly recommend checking it out. But it's really exciting to see that it's finally coming to modern consoles after being unavailable for licensing issues for so long. Now, the downside is that, I mean, this was for a long while, and I guess it still is, I think, a good reason to always request a physical download of the game or a physical copy of the game, because, I mean, if my PlayStation 3, which I have, it's a fat model, it's one of the backwards compatible fat models. If that died, I would have no way of playing that game ever again. Well, now that they've re-released it, then it's probably, not going to be so much of an issue. But here's the deal: it doesn't even look like we're going to get a physical release of it this time either. Based on what I'm seeing, there's been no confirmation. So limited run games, please try. I know you've been trying, but gosh, I sure hope that this comes through. Now that the licensing issues have been sort of figured out, at least for the time being, this would be a physical edition that I would happily spend some money on. Now, that is coming to, by the way, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Stadia, and PC. And no word about a physical release, but it is coming out holiday season 2020. So just around the corner, fingers crossed. Also, something that is getting a port here is Code of Princess EX, which is coming to PC. Now, Code of Princess EX was the enhanced port of Code of Princess from 3DS over to Nintendo Switch. My buddy Johnny Millennium put together a really great review of it when it came out on the Switch about 2018. Can you believe it's already been almost 2 years since 2018's been finished? Anyways, I'll link to that over here, so check out Johnny's channel if you haven't already. I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, make sure you check out Johnny's channel. He's a really cool dude. Anyways, so it originally launched on 3DS back in 2012. It's got a Switch port over to 2018, an enhanced port, and now that is being ported to PC. It's headed its way over to Steam. It is a side-scrolling action RPG, and it is going to be launching on Steam on the 1st of October. And then we also got a release date update. Back in June, we heard about Shiren the Wanderer, Tower of Fortune, and Dice of Fate. That's a long-running mystery dungeon RPG series by Chunsoft. We learned about back in June that was going to be coming to PC and to Nintendo Switch, but they never really gave us a date until now. So that's going to be coming out in the West on PC and Switch on December 2nd. Moving along, we've got some rumor mill news to kind of trudge our way through, so be forewarned, none of this has been confirmed. None of this necessarily means anything substantial. Take it all with a grain of salt. Okay? So, here's the rumor mill news that I felt was probably important to mention. So, one of the rumor mill news is going around is that Final Fantasy 16 may be getting announced maybe at the upcoming PlayStation 5 showcase on Wednesday. So it might be a good idea to keep an eye out for that. And if not Final Fantasy 16, then maybe I'm hoping maybe Final Fantasy 7 too, but it's not really, who knows what it might be, or if it's anything at all. But, you know, Square Enix a while back did say that they would be announcing their E3 announcements between July and August. I remember that. You remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers that. Square Enix apparently done forgot about that because I don't think they really announced much of anything except for that new Kingdom Hearts rhythm game. so maybe the announcement that they were planning for July or August just got moved to September with this PlayStation 5 showcase. Hopefully that's the case. And I would really personally probably prefer Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 to be announced rather than Final Fantasy 16, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, I suppose. Now, in other rumor mill news, this is less of a rumor and more just like idle chatter, I suppose. Tetsuya Nomura did state in an interview when people were asking him about the new Kingdom Hearts rhythm-based game, Melody of Memories or something, Memory of Melody, something like that. They did ask him about, you know, how the 20th anniversary is coming up, and he said that, yeah, he's working on something for 2022. That's going to be, the 2022 will be the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. Feel old yet? I do. I feel really old. Kingdom Hearts will be 20 in 2022. Now, also, Nippon Ichi Software of America has a scheduled slot at PAX Online on Thursday for what they're calling a new localization announcement, an exciting new localization announcement, according to them. And that could mean anything. It could mean nothing, but a lot of fans are hoping, including myself, that this is going to be a Crossbell Kiseki announcement. Like maybe Trails from Zero, Trails of Azure, who knows? I'm hoping so, but even if it's not something like that, we do still at least have the Geofront patches. One is finished, one is in the progress of being finished. So I'm really looking forward to hearing out what that might be, if they're excited about this, because they've already announced East 9, right? And I feel like it's too early for the new Trails game. Suppose we'll just see. And now it is time for our JRPG weekly forecast. Starting with Tuesday, the 15th, we've got Banner of the Maid. Now, Banner of the Maid is a strategy RPG that is taking place in an alternate reality of the French Revolution. This is coming to PlayStation 4, PC, and Nintendo Switch. And then later on Thursday, the 17th, we've got Idea Factory's Moero Castle H. This is a first-person dungeon crawling RPG for Nintendo Switch, where, according to the description here, you take on the role of a lucky pervert, I guess. And I'm supposing some of you can probably infer the rest. So that's coming to the Nintendo Switch on the 17th. And then also on the 17th, we've got Vampire's Fall Origins, which is a Western-style RPG. It looks like it's supposed to be some sort of throwback. It's making its way over from PC over to Nintendo Switch on the 17th as well. And then that leaves us with today's question of the week. And my question for you is about that possible announcement from Square Enix on this upcoming Wednesday, the PlayStation 5 showcase. What are your thoughts on if they do announce a Final Fantasy 16? Are you on board, or are you... I don't know. What is the general feel for this? Because personally speaking, I haven't even played Final Fantasy 15. I haven't really been very excited for a mainline Final Fantasy game since, well, I was excited for 12, and then that kind of let me down. Not to say it's a bad game, it just didn't jive with me at the time in which it came out. And then after that, I just, you know, there was an MMO, there was Final Fantasy 13, and then another MMO, and then 15, you know, it's just a whole lot of stuff that didn't really strike my interest at the time. And so I'm not even sure how I feel if they do start announcing a 16 and how that'll go. So I would personally, I mean, I was really very happy with my experience overall with Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1. So that's why I'm thinking I would really prefer a part 2 to that, but I want to know what your thoughts are. How excited are you guys for the potential of a Final Fantasy 16? Is it too soon, or I don't know? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will read them. True story. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. If you like your RPG news the way I like my coffee, hot and fresh, make sure you get subscribed so you get notifications when these come out every Monday. And until then, guys, have a great week. I am Super Derek, and this has all been news to me. See you later, guys.